This is what my dad told me when I came out to him, put myself out there and told him that I'm autistic. And his answer will make any autistic person lose it and be so angry. My name is Ananga. I am an autistic and ADHD mom of 2 kids, one of whom is also ADHD and autistic, and my husband is also ADHD. Today I want to talk about my dad and coming out to my dad as ADHD and autistic. The thing is, I am 100% sure that so is he. I'm 100% sure that my father is also autistic and ADHD. But the most aggravating thing is his reaction to me telling him what I believe I am. I have to be open. I did make a mistake though. I also told him that I think he is autistic. I totally went into the territory of what you absolutely should not do. You should not be handing out diagnoses to people unless they're coming to you first, asking your opinion. Well, actually, if you're not a psychologist or if you're not trained to screen somebody for autism, then maybe you should hold back. You should just say, this is just my observation, my opinion, but go to a professional. I only realized that I'm autistic a couple of months ago, and right now it is the single most important thing in my universe right now, and this explains almost all of the struggles that I have been experiencing in life until now. I'm almost 40 and I have dealt with depression since my teenage years, probably since about age 16 or so. I have dealt with postpartum anxiety. I have had multiple clinical depressive episodes and ADHD symptoms, typical ADHD symptoms like believing that I'm lazy, extreme procrastination, always being late, multiple career changes, you name it. Now that I know that I'm autistic, it all makes sense. And to me, it's just the explanation for everything. And I'm so shocked that others are not reacting the same way as me. This, ironically, is a very typical ADHD autistic thing that happens. We have a problem with theory of mind. I'll make a whole other video on that separately and link to it here. Theory of mind means that the person with the idea believes that everybody else also has that same idea. A person that looks at the world a certain way believes that everybody else looks at the world in that exact way, and they're shocked, surprised, hurt, and disappointed when that is not the reality. This is where I'm at right now. I want everybody to see also that my autism answers many of the puzzling things about me. And the one person who I thought would really get and appreciate this is my dad, because I see so many signs of autism in his life with me, in his reactions, in his history with me, the challenges we've had, and the beautiful moments of connection and understanding that we've also had can all be attributed to the same foundation of autism that we both share. Ever since I was little, I felt like I was absolutely misunderstood. I felt like nobody really got me, and I felt unaccepted just being the way I was, except for by one person, and that was my dad. This revelation came up in multiple therapy sessions, and I've had to do a lot of inner work just to get to this point of understanding and knowing about my past, but I really felt like my dad got me. So when my parents separated at my age 3, it was a shock. Suddenly, the only one person who got me, who accepted me, and who accommodated for my differentness, my weirdness, or my whatever differentness as a child was suddenly gone from my life. He accommodated me, he understood me because he is like me. He knows what it's like to have questions, to have the need to question everything until you feel you've received a satisfactory explanation. He knows what it's like to have over-enthusiastic joy and to have the freedom to be able to express that, and he allowed me to do that as a kid, whereas others would probably become uncomfortable when I'd be screaming and shouting just because I was happy. He took the time to explain things to me, explain the why behind his actions and the why behind I was expected to also do certain things, which nobody else did. Everybody else was like, do what I tell you to do because you're the child and I'm the adult. Another big sign that my dad is autistic for me is that he constantly asks why. He asks why to the point of driving you crazy. Now that I have a different understanding of autism, I have patience for this phase of our interactions. But growing up until like the age of 40 almost, I didn't. Any why just felt like he's questioning my credibility or my decision making or my intelligence. And I would get very, very angry and defensive and shut down or attack back, and we would escalate into a fight, and then we would just kind of repel each other and just kind of like stop talking. And once we stopped talking for 3 years. One other factor which tells me that my dad is autistic is that all 3 of his daughters are autistic. I'm the oldest, and I have just realized, self-diagnosed, that I'm autistic at age 39. My second sister, who's from a different mother, is not diagnosed, but there are many, many signs, like she eats always the same thing, she dresses always in a very particular way, and she went to a gifted program in school. My third sister, who's also from a different mom, she is actually diagnosed autistic. The common denominator in this equation is my father. So 3 girls, 3 different moms, the same dad, and all 3 girls are autistic, so you can do the maths here. When I shared this with him, when I shared my reasons with him of me thinking that he might also be autistic and ADHD, he in the beginning heard me out, but then he became aggressive. I have to say here, I told him that I think he's also autistic because I wanted him to see that I see autism as a gift. And I see this as a gift that I received from him, from his genetics, from him being my father. But unfortunately, he doesn't see it like that yet. Maybe he doesn't even see it as a gift that I have it, let alone he himself. But he absolutely doesn't. And when I presented the idea that he also sees the traits in him, I think he really had a hard time accepting that. And when his mind couldn't make sense of it, and when he didn't even have the capacity to ask his why questions, like, why do you think that? Why do you believe this? What are the signs? What has been the way that I have acted in the past that makes you believe that about me? He didn't do that. He went straight into attack. And this is what he said to me that just made me so angry. He knows something about autism because he did tell me that right now what you're doing, you're diagnosing everybody's autistic right now. This is your special interest right now. He didn't use the word special interest because he's not familiar with the vocabulary yet, but he said this is your obsession right now. By saying that, it felt like to me that he was just dismissing what I was saying, all my research so far, all the things I've read, all the analysis that I have done on me, my kids, and of course my father, my sisters. He's just kind of like canceling, erasing all that out. And then, because he knows me so well, he hit me where it hurts. He challenged me, he asked me, saying, the fact that you're now diagnosing yourself and you're diagnosing your son, so my son is autistic and ADHD. By the way, he's actually in an actual diagnosis process from professionals, and not only a psychologist, but also occupational therapists and so on. He's in the process, like he's in the system. And yet my dad was like, oh, now you're like over-diagnosing your son, and the way that you're gonna accommodate for this of believing he is what he is isn't that damaging him in the future? Aren't you breaking him, or aren't you damaging his future by treating him a certain way based on what you believe about him right now? He basically said that you saying everyone is autistic or diagnosing everyone, aren't you hurting your kids by doing that? This is the whole point of this channel here. I built this whole channel just to address the fact that we as parents need to become aware of our neurodivergence, of all the things that trigger us, because guess what? Your kids are your biggest triggers. Many autistic, neurodivergent parents out there will know what I'm talking about. When we tend to lose it the most is often in the family situation, is often at home, often with the people closest to us, which is our kids. They are these little tiny reflections of us, and they mirror to us all the things in ourselves that we don't want to see. So of course they're going to trigger us, and it is vital that we become aware of our neurodivergence so that we stop that trigger midway. Or how about this? Even though that trigger is pulled, the bullet doesn't fire. You know what I'm trying to say here? Even though your kid is doing everything that would normally trigger your autism, your ADHD, your rage, your meltdown, or your shutdown, now is regulated. Through your awareness, you can keep your self-regulation in place. You can keep your balance, you can keep your strength and power as a parent. This is what this whole channel is about. My dad has not seen this channel. This is a secret, anonymous project that I'm doing to protect the privacy of my family on all sides. But he knows me, so he attacked me where it hurts. I tried to explain to him, look, if I was not aware of my autism or his autism, then I would take all his meltdowns, all his tantrums, all his no, all his, these socks are not good, you know, all the little things, I would take them personally. I would think he's a difficult kid. I would come down on him. I'd be hard to him, or I would emotionally shut down and distance myself from him. So I was trying to tell him that. And also, knowing my own autism helps me to see, okay, now I'm being triggered and I'm reacting in a very autistic way or in a very ADHD way. And this is not healthy. This is not the correct, mature adult. It's not the parent type of reaction. I'm reacting like another toddler. I'm practically becoming a 5-year-old in the way I'm reacting to him. So me understanding my own condition helps me to be a better parent. This is what I was trying to tell him. And look, we don't know, we can't predict the future. Am I hurting him through my new awareness? Or would it have been better that our lives just carry on without this awareness and, you know, whatever the consequences of that? I don't know. I can't predict the future. But what I do see day to day is my reactions to him. So I shared this particular example with him. The other day, my son came home from school. He had a really hard day in school. There's a new teacher there, or a substitute teacher or whatever. And of course, there was, you know, he has a hard time with new people because, you know, he's autistic, and he also has a hard time when he's being told what to do without in a disrespectful way, or without the explanation of why he has to do that. So he got home from kindergarten and he was just grumpy, mad, and just shouting and being mad and letting out his aggression on me because, you know, now he's home and I'm his safe place. In the past, I would have taken it personally. In the past, I would have shouted at him and say, take your shoes off, or get yourself together. You know, I wouldn't see that there's a reason he's behaving this way, which has absolutely nothing to do with me. I gave him the grace of understanding. I gave him the grace of saying it's okay. I went the extra mile. I helped him take his shoes off, even though he could do it himself. I allowed him to be frustrated, and I allowed him to come to the table, and I gave him something like a treat, even though he was misbehaving. I gave him something. I did something kind to him. And you know what he did? Within minutes, he just came and he melted into me. He hugged me and he said, "Mommy." And he just kind of let himself go. So this didn't end in this like fight where he's mad at me, I'm mad at him, and he's shutting himself down emotionally and just being distant. He actually came to me and revealed his vulnerability to me. This is really, really difficult for autistic kids. We are so on guard. I'm saying we here because I also was an autistic kid and I'm an autistic mom. It is so hard for us to let down our guard. It's so hard for us to just lean into somebody to be comforted or to be taken care of. And I helped my son to get there through my awareness of my and his autism. So to answer my dad, I don't know if I'm hurting my kids or not through this like hyper awareness about everybody is neurodivergent. You guys know what I'm talking about. When you realize what neurodivergence looks like, you see neurodivergent people everywhere. It's like that Sixth Sense scene. I see dead people. I see neurodivergent people everywhere. They're everywhere. So in the end, my point is, if you want to come out and if you want to share with your loved ones about your diagnosis, whether it's through a professional or self-diagnosis, that you are neurodivergent, that you are autistic, and you are ADHD, then you have to ask yourself a couple of very important questions first. I took some of these questions from the book Unmasking Autism, which is so amazing and I highly recommend it. There's a link to buy it down in the description. First question is, what do you hope to achieve from this revelation, from this sharing? Do you want that they accept you? Do you want that they understand you? Do you want that they also share this enthusiasm, like, that explains it? Or do you want them to validate you? Hold up here, because this might not be the reaction that you get, depending on the other person's awareness and acceptance level of neurodivergence, of autism in general. To start with, their reaction is going to vary. The second thing you should ask yourself is it going to make a difference to you whether they accept it or reject it? The fact that you came out and told them that you're autistic now. Go through it, like fast forward a couple of steps. Go into the conversation in your head. Imagine that they said, yes, I get it, I accept it. And okay, so tell me more. Or are they going to say, no, that's not possible, you don't look autistic, or everyone is a little bit autistic, which my mom actually said. Or they downright reject it and say, that is not possible, you're perfectly normal, or your son is perfectly normal. How do you feel when you hear that? I got all three of those answers from different family members. The first one made me feel soothed, of course. The second one made me feel angry. Everyone's a little bit autistic from my mom. Angry, but at the same time, not that hurt, more anger. And finally, the last question is like, no, that's absolutely not possible. Don't put this label on your kids and so on. Just the resistance to even accepting that we might be different and we might have different needs and we might have a different way of being. This hurt me so much. I had to cry for like 4 hours when I got this reaction from multiple members within our family. The second part of this is have a plan on how you're going to deal with those reactions. So have a plan how you're going to manage your own emotions if there's this absolute rejection and refusal to accept what you have just come out and shared about yourself, your identity, about your being and your children's being. I didn't have a plan because I had no idea that they might even reject that. I thought they would also have this like, that makes sense kind of feeling, you know, through my theory of mind issues, my autistic theory of mind issues. And I didn't get that, and I had absolutely no plan on how to deal with that, and that was really difficult. The final question is, how do you plan on explaining the concepts of autism to them if needed? Do you have specific examples from your childhood or from your children and their behavior that connects the dots and that also highlights to them that yes, this is autism and it's a real thing and we better acknowledge it? Are you confident enough to explain and teach them about some of these concepts, these very important markers or just information, traits about autism in order to help them understand and come to an acceptance about what you have just shared? I'm also going to make a video about how my mom reacted when I came out to her and told her that I'm autistic, and how the grandparents of my kids reacted. And you're going to see how different people might react and what strategies you can use to manage your own self and your own feelings about those reactions, and how to help them come to a level of respect for you and standing your ground no matter what they say. Also, keep your eye out for my theory of mind video, which I'm going to link to right here as soon as it's ready.